So I'm hanging in the hub with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Marc Summers. Now, we know him as a comedian, a radio personality, much like myself, and a television host, and of course, from Double Dare. Thank you so much for sitting with us.
I'm having a ball.
Such a good sport.
Oh, you're terrific. Do you get cable on that thing? That's unbelievable.
I do, yes. The bundle package. Okay, so I have to start with the question everyone wants to know.
And that is?
Are you going to host the Double Dare reboot?
That's the question everybody wants to know. And I wish I could tell you everything I knew, but I can't right now. But in time. Patience, grasshopper, patience.
Okay, well, I feel like I've had enough patience because I've been waiting like 20-something years for this moment.
Yeah.
Although I thought that there'd be like slime involved and stuff like that, you know, all the usual stuff.
We'll get there. We're almost there.
So tell us how you landed that gig for Double Dare.
I had been around Los Angeles for a long time, first as a professional magician, then as a comic at the Comedy Store. And I was doing warm-ups on television shows. I was working on Soap and Star Search and Webster and Alice and What's Happening Now and a bunch of those things. And I was always behind the camera and wanted to get in front. And at the time, game show hosts were older guys. It was, you know, at the time, Barker and Gene Rayburn and Tom Kennedy. And they said I looked like a Boy Scout, come back when they had when I had gray hair and wrinkles. Then all of a sudden, a friend of mine, Dave Garrison, who was a ventriloquist, got called to go audition. And he said, I don't want to be in front of the camera anymore. I'm going to be a producer. So he called me and said, I don't know what Nickelodeon is. I don't know anything about this game show. You should go audition instead of me. And so I went. They had auditioned 1,000 people in New York, didn't like anybody. They auditioned 1,000 people in LA. I was the first guy to audition in Los Angeles. And after 3 or 4 callbacks, I got the job.
Wow. That's just incredible. So what was the most memorable moment that you had in Double Dare?
There were so many of them. You know, certainly I was 34 years old before I got that job. And so I had one foot out the door. I didn't think I was ever going to get to be a host of a game show. And so just finally walking out on a stage and getting a chance to do that was probably one of the most memorable. But when it became this instant classic hit, my head exploded that, you know, David Letterman's, staff was watching us in the afternoons, and celebrities were calling and wanted to be on the show. And when we toured it, we did 40 personal appearances a year in big arenas for 8 years, and celebrities in LA and New York were calling us and wanting to meet us and get their kids on. And it was just overwhelming. They would celebrity versions with, you know, we had Weird Al against Lou Ferrigno. And it was, the whole thing, it was insane, but it was more fun. I couldn't believe that they paid me to do that, you know?
So now knowing that you never anticipated hosting a kids show and you have OCD, how did you end up hosting Double Dare with kids and slime?
When I did the audition, nobody told me about the mess. I was just asking questions, and they wanted to see the report and all that other kind of stuff. So the first day, we shot in Philadelphia when we first started. And I get there, and here's the obstacle course. I didn't know what it was, because they didn't even tell me there was an obstacle course. And I see a guy pouring chocolate syrup all over the slide. I see somebody else taking whipped cream. I said, what are they doing? He said, that's the obstacle course. I don't understand. Well, at the end of the game, they run them, and if they get 8 of them in 60 seconds or less, they win a big prize. And I said, do you really think a kid wants to get messy like that? I had no idea. And it exploded. And if you watch the first 65 episodes, I never got a drop on me. I didn't want to get that stuff near. And so the show gets picked up, and the producers call me and say, well, we have a little problem. I said, what's that? They said, you got to start getting messy. And I said, why? And they said, well, the kids, you know, said they wanted to get you messed up. And so, yeah, you do what you got to do, because, you don't wait all that time to get a show and then say, well, I'm not doing that.
Right.
You know, so it was a great opportunity. I wasn't going to turn it down.
So what was your favorite physical challenge?
I would say there's 2. One's called Pies in the Pants, where you have people over here with gigantic clown pants and a catapult with pies, and you step on the catapult, you send them up in the air, and they go down. The other one was, if I told you I was coming, I'd have baked a cake. It was 4 people sitting on stools with this gigantic container of icing, and they had to pick up ice. Well, that was the liquid icing. They had to take regular icing, put it on these cakes layers, and once they were all layered, they pushed on a button, and all the icing came. I mean, drenched. I mean, buckets and buckets and buckets. There was just something funny.
Yeah.
I loved seeing other people get trashed, and that was one of my favorites.
Were there any failed physical challenges?
Well, not per se. See, we tested them, and if they didn't work 3 times in testing, then we didn't put them on the air. There was one, though, where it didn't work in testing, but the producers wanted to put it on. This was the deal. There's a mailbox over there and a table full of paper airplanes. And the deal was they had to send a paper airplane over there and land in the mailbox.
Easy.
No, no. I said that if it wasn't done in the rehearsal, why would we do it now? I love the idea.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, here's a physical challenge that nobody is going to get because it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. You got to pick up one of these. You got 20 seconds to get one over there. And I said, and if any of the kids does it, I'll give them my house, okay? So I said, on your mark, it said go. The first airplane goes right into the mailbox. It's like, they took a close shot of me. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it was insane. So that was...
So who lives in your house now?
We had to go back and say I was kidding. Because the kid said, I want your house, It was pretty funny.
Did you ever catch anyone cheating on the show?
We have a saying in game shows, because I started off as a game show writer, the contestants will screw you every time if they can. And so it wasn't so bad with the kids, but when we got to Family Double Dare, the parents would try to cheat all the time. Yeah.
Doesn't that just ruin the game?
No, it does. The kids didn't care. Kids just wanted to have fun
yeah.
and pour green slime on. But the parents, when there was a car to win or a trip to Europe, they were intense.
Yeah. Any memorable moments with Robin and Harvey?
Well... There's still, we're all still really close friends. And we work together on a lot of different shows. I still do a lot of corporate dates and things like that. And anytime I can bring Harvey and Robin in with me, I do it. We do a thing every year at Beer Week in Philadelphia called Drunk Double Dare, called Dunkle Dare. And Harvey's our announcer, and Robin is my assistant. And, I think about it. Harvey and I are... a little bit older than when we started. Robin's 52 and has kids going to college. But it's, it's like yesterday. We're all just college friends, almost having fun every time we go and do it.
So let's talk Unwrapped. Okay. What's your favorite episode of Unwrapped when you learned the most from?
Well, here's the thing. The misnomer is that I would go to all those factories. I had never been to one factory in my entire life. We started the show in Denver, moved it to Pueblo, Colorado, back to Denver, and then we shot it around the country. And they would go and, as they would say, gang shoot a bazillion of these factories. And I would be in a diner, and I would say, what are we doing here? They'd say, pretzels. I'd say, tell me a little bit about it. I'd say, now we're going to go unwrap pretzels, and I'd read this thing and go on. So I really don't have any favorites because I was basically doing, as we say in the industry, wraparounds for years and years and years, longest running show on the history of Food Network. And so there are no favorites. We did normally I would try many of the things that we did on the show, and we did something called Cowgirl Chocolates. And what they told me was do not eat them because they have peppers in them that on the Scoville scale of heat are one of the most powerful peppers you've ever had. I went, can't be bad. So I bit into one, and I didn't feel anything for about 15 or 20 seconds. And then it was like a Ren and Stimpy cartoon. My eyes popped out of my head. And it took me about a half hour to calm down. I couldn't breathe. It was so hot. And I don't know if they had ghost peppers in it because ghost peppers supposedly are the hottest pepper you can get. But it was brutal. They literally had to shut it down for a while. Yeah.
They didn't have milk nearby?
Milk didn't do anything. Bread didn't do anything. Nothing did anything. It was brutal.
Always listen to your producers.
Yes.
So I know you got into television for something other than your producers. Tell me why you decided on television hosting.
I'm one of those folks who came out of the womb knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And I would watch television as a kid, and I would watch Steve Allen and Johnny Carson and Bob Barker. And I wanted to do that. I just knew what I wanted to do from the time I was probably 5 or 6 years old. And it was a passion that I had. And as a kid in Indiana, I talked myself onto television shows doing magic. And I was on the radio when I was 15. And I'm one of the few people I know I've never taken a job outside of the entertainment industry. I was never a waiter, never worked at Macy's. Every job I've had has been in show business. And I just feel fortunate that I've gotten to do everything I've wanted to do pretty much.
What do you think the biggest difference between television and radio is?
Well, in my opinion, you have to be more creative to be on the radio. Because you're in a room sometimes by yourself, sometimes with 4 or 5 other people, but you have to paint a picture. For a while, I worked on a show called The Late Late Radio Show with Tom Snyder. And Tom Snyder was one of the last of the few broadcasters. The word broadcaster isn't used too much anymore. And I sat with him one night, and he was describing a sailboat on Lake Champlain. And I could actually see that sailboat the way he described it. Johnny Carson, broadcaster. I think the last true broadcaster is David Letterman. A broadcaster, somebody years ago, a guy by the name of Hugh Downs, hosted the Today Show and then walked down the hall and did a show called Concentration, a game show. They don't let you do that anymore. You're either news or entertainment. And so the difference is, between radio and TV, Carson, great interviewer, certainly Letterman is, but if you listen to Howard Stern, okay, not only does he have the talent, but he has the time. And sometimes he'll sit and talk to a celebrity for 2 hours and ask questions that you'd say, in your right mind, I would never ask it, and if I asked it, the person would never answer it. And he gets people to reveal things about their lives that nobody can do. So I'm always impressed with a guy like a Howard Stern and somebody on radio who can delve into somebody's personality and get them to say the things that they do.
All right, let's talk about another infamous moment in your career. It would be The Tonight Show with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
You wait your whole life to get on The Tonight Show. I wanted to be on with Johnny. Johnny retired. I had a publicist who also handled Jason Alexander. And the way it worked often was if a publicist had a big client, they could sometimes schmooze another client in. They wanted Jason to be a regular. This was right after Seinfeld. And they said, I'll talk to you about that, but I have a client, Marc Summers, and I want you to put him on the show. So they interviewed me and they accepted me. But for a year, they kept telling me I was going to be on. They kept bumping me. No. Finally, they called me and said, you're going to be on the show. Fantastic. The car comes to pick me up. On the way to NBC Burbank, it gets a flat tire. I'm thinking, I'm not meant to do this show. So I finally get there like 10 minutes before the show's supposed to start. You know, Jay comes in the dressing room. I'm sorry, Mark, we're going to fix it. Don't worry about it. And Burt was going through a divorce with Lonnie Anderson. He was really stressed out. And the night before on The Tonight Show, he was bashing Burt. Well, Burt came out and was just in the worst mood ever. He was supposed to do 2 segments. I was then going to be on segment 3, and Carrot Top, the comedian, was going to be on segment 4. Well, he came out. The first thing he did is cut off Jay's tie, okay? Now, what they didn't know was I was supposed to do a magic trick, and I was supposed to cut off Jay's tie and put it back together. Well, Jay was wearing a special tie that I gave him. When Burt came out and cut the tie, I couldn't do the trick anymore. So I said to the producers, what am I supposed to do now? And so that was nightmare number 1. So Burt does segment 1, segment 2. They decided to extend him to segment 3. So there's one more segment left, and they say, we're bumping Summers again. We're going to put on Carrot Top. So my publicist comes out and says, if you bump Summers one more time, Jason Alexander is never doing the show again. So they said, okay, well, then we're going to have to put him on. So I go out. He's in the worst mood ever. And we get into a fight. And the next thing I know, pies come out, and we're throwing pies at each other. And, you know, it's now history. It was 1994 when that happened. But I'm telling you, not a week goes by where somebody doesn't stop me. And they always say, was that set up or was it real? It was absolutely real. He just was in a very pissed off mood, I guess. And yeah, it was crazy. And Jay was new on the show, didn't have much control, and lost total control on the whole thing. Go to YouTube and take a look at it.
Wow. Yeah. Check it out. That's insane.
Yeah, it was totally insane.
Oh my gosh.